classroom activity, community circles or storytelling circles, incorporating dance, music, song, call and response, and other cultural ways of communicating. Do black people still do call and response?
Dude.
Forethought, do you know any, can you sing any spirituals for me? Break out your...
Shut the
No, hold on. I feel like I'm in the South Park episode where he's like, hey, what's the name of the black kid?
Token.
Yeah, he's like, Token, go get your bass. I know you
guy.
can play bass. I know you can play bass. Go get your bass. You got one. He's like, I don't have one. You're black. You got one. He's like, okay, play it. He's like, like, it feels like this is like the actual meme shit.
My favorite thing about leftists is how their ideology is so extreme that it actually brings them full circle into becoming what they claim they hate most. In modern times, the real racists are the ones who claim everyone else is. And we have proof of this in their massive push for DEI. They believe that all other groups are inferior to white men to such an extent that they need massive amplifiers just to be put on the same level. But this is incredibly stupid. First of all, white men aren't intrinsically better than any other group, even though most leftists believe this. And second, bringing in scholarly and career welfare is just going to give less qualified people positions over those who worked harder and are actually smarter.
Okay, I'm sorry. I haven't read through this whole thing before, so this might be a lot of fun, okay?
Yeah.
Let's do this.
I hate the treadmill of terms. Like, it's not enough to be not racist. You have to be anti-racist. Like, in 20 years, is it going to be like, it's not enough to be just an anti-racist. You've got to be like an equality promoter. And then it can't be enough to be an equality promoter. You've got to be an equality non-negotiator. Like, it's so fucking cringe. You've got to be anti-racist. Like, give me a sorry.
Well, I think we should be anti-racist.
The problem is that when leftists use the term anti-racist, they don't mean it in the literal sense. Most people are already against racism. That's not what lefties are talking about when they bring up this new term. They mean going out of their way to create unequal opportunity by giving different racial groups advantages just because they believe those groups are inferior. That's really what this term means to them. Anti-racism isn't being against racism. It's actively bolstering one race over another.
So would you agree that black people in the U.S. On average perform lower in math classrooms?
Yes.
Like perform worse? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like, how do we improve that?
My guess is there's going to be a lot of socioeconomic conditions that are hampering a student's ability to learn. So coming from a single parent household, yeah.
I agree with all that, of course. How does a math teacher, a specific math teacher who has like a class full of like mostly black students or even a few black students, like how would they, or even just a few students of color, like how would they engage with this?
The exact same way they'd engage with a classroom full, the exact same way they'd engage with a classroom full of very poor white students.
One of the biggest problems with lefties and authoritarians is that they believe they can solve most societal problems from the top down, meaning that they can identify a problem, like a generation of failing math students, and then create a solution through systemic policy change. They don't realize that this isn't effective because they're not attacking the root problem. Or if they are, they're attacking it ineffectively. To be clear, the reason most students fail at math is because they don't study. The solution to that problem is making those kids study. The vaguer problem, and the far less widespread one, is that students don't have enough resources. This is ridiculous. Math resources are abundant in this day and age. Free resources online, teachers, tutors, and countless public and private programs. So even access to resources isn't a real problem. But even if we grant, for argument's sake, that access to resources is the problem, creating more public programs will still be ineffectual. Because at that point, the problem is that the child isn't wealthy enough to afford those programs. Why? Because their parents aren't wealthy enough to afford good resources or programs. Why? Because their parents don't have a good job. Why? Because the economy's bad. Why? Because communists run the economy. They destroy jobs, raise inflation, and take everyone's money for welfare and military programs. Rather than doing the simple thing and creating a better economy, so that resources are more abundant, and jobs are too, making the entire population wealthier. Let's instead go through hundreds of bureaucratic layers just to get a program that costs too much and offers very little.
Like, I'm trying to think of because I've tutored kids before. I did that for a little bit. I've helped my son with homework and shit.
Me too.
I don't
That's
know.
like a decade of my life.
I don't think I would ever think that sounds cartoonish, where a kid is like having trouble and I'm like, and he's like, oh, like multiplication. So I was like, no, okay, hold on, my little ninja, okay? Imagine Kobe Bryant shoots 21 3-pointers in a row. What's the score? And he's like, oh, 63. And it's like, there you go, dude. See, we're all good at math. Like, that's what I'm envisioning in my head. I don't know what you're talking about in terms of like, what is your go-to example for like a black example versus a white kid example? I don't know what that means.
You know what's funny? Destiny is exactly right. Leftists are implying that it's not the laziness of certain students that causes them to fail. It's some trait intrinsic to their specific race. Because as we've already gone over, this isn't for a class of kids. It's not for impoverished kids. It's not for failing kids. It's for black kids. Meaning they don't believe these black students are failing because of some economic or effort-based reason. They're failing because they're black.
Like, it might be the best solution is actually engaging with that student that is falling behind, a student of color in this case particularly, and trying to find what experiences in their life might relate. I mean, I've had students that I had a black student once who I was like, when I would talk about like money more, it was easier for him to conceptualize like fractions and stuff. When I would
sure, but do you see that like you're doing?
I'm not saying again. I'm not saying that like white kids would also not benefit.
No, you're
from
doing. You're giving me the liberal answer. Like, I would engage with him as an individual, but that's not my issue. If you're telling me you would engage with an individual and find out things, that's fine. But my issue is when you stereotype it to like, well, different races of kids might like engage with math in different ways, which is what this seems to be saying.
That's the real lie, the contradiction. The idea that you can both address a student as an individual and as part of a collective, because those two things are distinctly different.
It's not saying that there are specific strategies that you only apply to students of color, but that they might be like students of color might be more likely to need these strategies approached, or to like might benefit more from these strategies being implemented than like white students.
Sure, but then it just sounds like you should just be responsive to the needs of your students.
I mean, like, you could say that, but
we didn't say that. We're implying that students of color have a unique set of needs.
I don't think. Well, I mean, they do.
What are they?
On average? Well, they I mean, like, they're, I don't, whatever it is that's making them perform worse, right?
Is it their
like
genes? What? You gotta tell me what are we talking about? But what are we talking about? If this was Fuentes, I would be accusing you of dog whistling right now. So I'm trying to figure out what the talking about. What does it mean? Like, if I was tasked with like, and this is especially as I spent a lot of time arguing with racists. I'm not saying you're racist. Mm-hmm. And then I spent a lot of time arguing with red pillars, right? If people want to talk about men and women, now I think there's more in similar than there is in difference, but dealing with the differences in men and women have made me erase like a lot of the racial that I saw, because like men and women are distinctly separate creatures, and we there are different things that we hardcore treat in different ways, and I can see those differences. But if you spend a lot of time around a lot of different people, I don't think I would teach a black kid or a white kid math differently. So I'm just trying. I don't know what the means. Design homework policies that are responsive to the lives of students of color in order to support their learning needs.
This lefty doesn't have an answer, because what he's implying is that there is something different about black kids than white kids. Destiny is challenging him by suggesting that if white and black kids both have access to the same resources, why are the black kids failing at a higher rate? The liberal answer is that the black kids are not studying enough or don't have access to enough study resources. But the leftist answer seems to imply that it's not about resources or studying. It's about something deeper, their oppression. But because this is never elaborated on, because it's totally fucking stupid, people are left with the implication that leftists think black people are simply stupider.
Tell me that this doesn't sound like something that like would come out of like an American First textbook, like a Nick Fuentes textbook, right?
I don't think so. No,
Center Ethnomathematics.
Yeah.
Recognize the ways that communities of color engage in mathematics and problem solving in their everyday lives. For instance, calculating your mother's credit card rate, figuring out how much your dad owes on a payday loan, Like, what's the difference between an eighth of weed versus 2 grams? Like, what does that mean?
Wait. So those examples, they're not in this book, right? The
No,
ones you
but I'm saying, like,
listed
that's,
out?
yeah, no. What are the examples? That's why I'm asking for an example. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about?
I don't know, but I bet that well, I mean, let's try to figure it out. Maybe this does. Let's see. Teaching mathematics can help solve problems affecting students' communities. Model the use of math as a solution to their immediate problems, needs, and desires. So again, it's about. Wait, hang on. You're going to hate this third one. Identify and challenge the ways that math is used to uphold capitalist, imperialist, and racist views.
I read ahead and I saw. I wasn't even going to address the one. That's clearly fucking ridiculous. I don't know why that's in it. It has anything to do with yes. That math?
I mean, you don't think there's any way it could?
Math is absolutely used to uphold capitalism, because capitalists are intellectually superior to dumbass commies who believe math is racist.
So, I mean, like, it's not, but like, teach students of color about their mathematical legacy and ancestral connection and mastery of math. I mean, like,
yeah, that's the one I brought up earlier. But I think the last bullet point in that section kind of explains like why that's important, like giving rightful credit to the discovery of math concepts by mathematicians of color. Like I'm sure that there's a lot of like math history that's been kind of whitewashed, right?
Yeah, there might have been, yeah, but okay, just scrolling through,
and that's something worth exploring, especially like I think one of the things that's mentioned in here somewhere is like the Pythagorean theorem that's like specifically like was used before Pythagoras. But like we still like kind of name it after him.
That's true of a lot of stuff in math, by the way. Sometimes people discover things and it's not formally like attributed to a mathematician or physicist until later when they figure out a different application for it. Like that happens a lot.
This is a personal gripe, but I've never really cared much about who formulated great ideas as much as I care about the ideas themselves. A lot of people are one-hit wonders, and learning who they are is just too big an investment of my time. I wouldn't go as far to say that it's never worth learning about historical figures, but it's kind of exhausting and stupid to learn about tons of people when it isn't going to change your methodology for analyzing problems. Like, what's the point of knowing all the biggest generals in the Civil War, or the top 20 researchers in mathematics? I would rather just learn the principle or the idea itself than who invented it.
This hardcore, like everything is white supremacy, black people need to be taught math in a different way. Like I'm making a really, really good faith effort to understand, and I can, on a very academic level, I can understand it. But like, if I'm having trouble being fully bought into this, your average parent is way the on this. There is no way. Like the average person is going to be like completely out to sea trying to interpret what does it mean. I'm trying to imagine. I've been to a few. I haven't been in a couple of years, but I used to go to the student parent teacher things when the parents would ask questions about the curriculum and shit. And I'm trying to imagine somebody raising a hand and being like, "What does it mean when it says?" We shouldn't focus on content without applying a culturally responsive lens or a strategic scaffolding because we might perpetuate white supremacy culture and inequities. What are you guys teaching in math class? Like, can you give me an example of that? I'm trying to imagine a parent like ask that question. How would a teacher respond to that?
I'm not sure.
Of course you aren't. And that's because this is fucking ridiculous. These insane leftists don't care about teaching math. They want to push an agenda. They will never be satisfied until they've oozed their communistic ideology into every aspect of daily life. So even when you ask them about their own system, they don't know what it means. They just follow their idiotic leaders blindly.
What are you guys teaching in math class? Like, can you give me an example of that? I'm trying to imagine a parent like ask that question. How would a teacher respond to that?
I'm not sure. But I'm not I don't believe that there's like no good answer to that. Like the people who put this document together like probably would have a good answer to that, right?
I feel like their answer would be, it's not my job to educate you, honey.
Well, I think I think honestly, like that's I don't know. I totally disagree. I think the people who spend their lives working on like these subjects and like putting this together, I think they probably have like really strong backgrounds and all this stuff. I mean, like if you look at the content developers, like we have math content specialists, director of mathematics education, we have PhD students, whatever. Like I think that these people working on this probably do have good reasons for like using the language they do, and like probably have like they've spent probably a lot of time, and they're not just on Twitter saying like it's not my job to educate you. Like I think that's I don't know. I think it really like devalues like the effort that people might be putting into this stuff just because you disagree with the framing of it.
You can't devalue something that has none. All lefties cope about their leadership as much as this guy does. They don't know how the system works. They complain about problems within it and then demand change, but they don't know how to implement that change. And they justify it by saying their experts know how it would work. And that's how we got the Soviet Union.
So why don't we call this like?
They didn't have the other structures that were benefiting them.
Well, why not call it like Chinese supremacy culture then?
Why would we call it Chinese?
Because those are the that are killing us on our math tests.
Well, they learn math differently, don't they? So maybe we could include some of those different perspectives.
Wait, what do you mean? No, they probably. Now I could be wrong, okay, but from what I've seen and from my third-hand knowledge, Asian people learn math the most white supremacist way, which is the most rote procedural. You're gonna learn every formula. And I don't go, you understand this or not, but you better be able to reproduce every thing flawlessly. Are you saying that Asian people have like special alternative ways of learning math in the United States?
Well, no. What I'm saying is there's one specific example of like drawing lines to do multiplication that I think that comes to mind. That's like used more in Asian countries. And so what I'm saying is there are different approaches that these students learn.
Hold on, I'm not talking about Asian countries. Okay, the most Asian country I know is San Francisco. Okay, I'm talking about in the United States of America. I don't think they use the line system. I think they've got very strict cultures. Their parents force them to do well in school, and there are incredibly high expectations in Asian communities for their kids to do well in math.
I agree with that.
But I've never I had Asian friends in high school. I even went over to well, the last name was Tran. What is that? Is that Vietnamese? Maybe they didn't have the special Asian math, but like I never saw them doing we all shared notes. I didn't see anybody doing like math in any special like Asian, like he's writing like glyphs on his fucking paper.
I'm not saying that like Asian people, especially not in the U.S., are like learning in like fundamentally different way, but like Asian immigrants probably learned some different tools to when they were engaging with math in their where they came from.
No.
You don't think so? You don't think?
I know
you think
so.
we teach math exactly the same?
I don't think we teach it the same. I think that 99% of the reason why a Chinese kid does really well math in the United States is because his parents, their culture is one of incredibly high expectation when it comes to academic achievement. That's why.
What if another component is the strategies that are used? What if some of the strategies?
I think their strategies are the most white supremacist. I think that's why Asians are called the model immigrant. It's not because they're bringing over like some crazy voodoo shit from Beijing to teach math to their kids. It's because their parents are literally like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you until you get an A+, and if you get an A, you're not going to talk to your friends for 3 weeks. And you're going to have a prescription for glasses when you're 9 years old.
The reason kids succeed at math is because they do their homework. They study. They practice equations. A communist would never accept this because they believe all people deserve an equal outcome. The smarter ought not be rewarded. The more athletic don't deserve a gold medal. The most attractive people ought not get the attention they do. They don't want disparity because it makes them feel bad. It really just comes down to envy.
I'm not talking about like the guy that came over when he was 37 years old and is studying math. I'm talking about like the children, the people that are crushing us in fucking schools, these Asian invaders, okay? People that are crushing us are like second generation or first generation that came over very, 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 very young. They're not bringing over like a secret set of like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan math skills that are only taught at Shanghai, like in the shadows of the Great Wall of China, okay? They come to the United States. They learn in our courses. They learn using our strategies. They just have very, 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 very strict cultures around making sure their kids excel in school.
Stupid people refuse to take responsibility at the cost of the rest of us. And so instead of making kids study, we instead pour billions of dollars into education programs on the federal and local levels, only to end up with ever increasing numbers of failing students. Our government is a failure on every level. The real solution is just parents making their kids study. That's literally it.
Do you think that there might have been some like mathematical strategies and mathematical concepts that were taught in a certain way or in a different way in some Native American tribes that have been like practically eliminated
Maybe, but I don't think that that explains the gap in education between certain racial groups and white people. Do you understand that everything you're saying is implying that like the way that they learn was just better for their native brains?
No, I'm not saying that.
Then why did you bring it up?
I could slam you with that at every single statement you're making. That is like the implication that is dripping with every single thing you say. That like
But I think the fact that a lot of these concepts are being discussed in a context where like the underlying premise is already accepted, that there isn't this like biological category of race, that these people's brains are fundamentally different. Like that we're
that's what it
talking
feels
about
like you're at. Like I feel
background.
like I'm trying to imagine if I was like a black person and I went to a teacher and I'm like, listen, my kid is failing math. Like, what should I do? And the teacher hands me a book on like, try ethnomathematics. I'm like, what the and I like open it up and like page 1 is like some dude in a fucking Kwanzaa outfit or something, or I don't know what the
Or you could study.
When you try to struggle with a black student teaching them that a quarter is 25, and they're not understanding it the same way a white student would, maybe teaching them that a quarter can be 15 because the quarter of an hour is 15 minutes might be an easier way to teach it. Like that would be an example where maybe if I'm trying super fucking hard to meet you into some place where maybe that would be an example that I wouldn't even know as a white person could work. Okay, that's like the Doctor Strange looking into the future and seeing one good reality out of 999 million bad ones. Okay, but there are so many other ways that I could see this as being bad. Like those charts where they're like, being on time is a white supremacist structure. Keeping schedules is white supremacy. They're literally doing the CP time thing, colored person time. That like, oh yeah, black people are late because they just don't value time like white people. That's all the problematic shit that I see emerging from this.
Bro, it is over for lefties.
Everything you're saying right now, everything you're saying could be something that Nick Fuentes is saying without examples. Because everything you're saying...
I don't think Nick Fuentes would ever engage with any of this stuff.
Dude, Nick Fuentes would have a field day. Dude, I shouldn't even mention it because I could give this dude, like, he could literally, if I was Nick Fuentes, I would take a lot of the CRT material and I would do a 30-minute segment on my stream where we do like Black Math Hour, and we take like one page of this and we show like, oh, today we're gonna learn Black Math Hour, right? Rather than worrying about tests, black people are gonna see who can clap the most complicated rhythm from a Tupac song, and then I would have 3 people in blackface do it, and we would take it out of our CRT book, and that would be my content for the day.
Women need to shut the fuck up, blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part, and we would live in paradise.